You're out of place here. Take a moment to reflect on that.
As I arrived at the venue for the new president's inauguration party, I was ousted outside by the department head. Understood. Feeling miserable about myself and giving in, the department head returned to the venue with a sneer. Right after that, the secretary, pale-faced and frantic, came to the president.
The chairman's son is missing.
And thus, the tumultuous inauguration party of the new president began. My name is Edward Wilson, 39 years old. I'm an employee at the company my father runs. My family consists of my father, mother, and an older brother, making us a family of 4. My brother's name is Mark. Ever since we were kids, Mark has been excellent in academics and sports, a true all-rounder. In contrast, I was just average in everything, with no particular talents, but I was someone who always tried harder than anyone else. Even my strict father acknowledged that about me, at least. When I expressed my desire to work at my father's company after graduating from college, he sternly told me,
"You have no particular talents, but I will allow you to work at my company. Just make sure not to cause any trouble."
Thank you, Dad. I managed to join the company, enduring my father's stern gaze, but there was a reason I specifically chose my father's company.
Remember, keep it a secret from everyone else that we are family. You know why, even without thinking about it.
Yes, of course. Being my father's son was a secret condition for my employment, so I had to keep it hidden.
Edward, this report needs to be redone.
Yes, sir. I'll redo it right away. During my early days, I worked hard to ensure no one suspected anything. I had no special skills, so there was no need to worry about being found out, but I would have had to leave the company if something came up. Occasionally, colleagues would remark, "You have the same last name as the chairman," which made me panic. I denied it vehemently, but perhaps because I lacked any notable traits, no one really suspected anything, and that's how things have been until now. I'm still working as an ordinary employee, but I aspire to climb the ladder someday. Amidst these ordinary days, a new department head was assigned to our department.
He is the new department head, James Cameron.
Nice to meet you all. Looking forward to working together.
As James greeted the gathered employees, I couldn't help but feel uneasy seeing his plump, smirking face. Sure enough, when James met my gaze, his smile deepened even further. It was as if he had spotted his prey. I involuntarily averted my gaze, hoping nothing would happen after James's introduction ended. However, just as I was about to get back to work, the president called out to me.
"Edward, can I have a word? I have a meeting later, and since you've been here for years, I'd like you to show James around the company."
Me. I was taken aback by the sudden request, but the president was really begging for it.
"I know you're busy with your own work, but please, I'm counting on you."
After being pressed like that, I finally gave in, thinking showing him around wouldn't be too hard. All right.
"Can you do it? Then I'll head to the meeting."
The president left briskly, almost as if pushing the responsibility onto me. I had wanted to avoid James as he seemed intimidating, but it wasn't so easy to get away.
Edward, right? Thank you for the tour.
Yes, please follow me. Feeling like James was mocking me after witnessing my exchange with the president, I reluctantly started the tour. Nothing particular happened during the tour, and I was relieved when it ended without issues. Thinking the bad feeling earlier was just my imagination, I decided to speak up to James. If there's anything you don't understand or want to know, please feel free to ask.
Let me see.
It was when I breathed a sigh of relief and greeted him as if nothing had happened. With the same smirking face he had shown during his introduction, James said to me,
I didn't have any questions, but I feel I've learned how easy you are to handle. I'm looking forward to working with you, Edward.
Yeah, sure. Looking forward to working with you too, James. It was an unsettling feeling, as if a chill ran down my spine. I had a bad feeling about this, and it turned out to be spot on.
Edward, I have something here I don't understand. Can you help me out? Could you get me a cup of coffee, ASAP?
Sometimes he would call me over to explain something he didn't understand about the documents, and at other times he would rush me to prepare his coffee. James made a habit of bossing me around. I'm so tired. The frequency was such that people in the office began whispering that I was James's gopher. I could have said no, but he was the boss, and he could overpower me with his authority.
James is new here, so help him out. Don't think you're better just because you've been here longer.
Sometimes he even got other employees to side with him, making me out to be the bad guy. I wanted to say that's not true, but when I remembered he was the new boss, I couldn't find the words to fight back. Life had been ordinary until James joined, but everything changed drastically after his arrival. While it's fine that only a few employees defend James, I find myself unable to focus on the tasks at hand day after day. Then one day, it was announced that a new president's inauguration party would be held. Everyone was assigned a role in preparing the venue, and I was tasked with placing name cards on the tables with James.
This seems like something Edward could handle alone, right?
Right. I can handle it myself, so please leave the place card preparation to me. Knowing I was powerless against James's authority, I reluctantly agreed. I had to prepare all the place cards by the day before and arrange them on the tables at the venue. Despite everything being dumped on me, I was determined to get it done for a certain person. Then, on the day of the new president's inauguration party, having finished my tasks the day before, I headed to the venue. After making sure my suit was in order, I arrived to find the venue lavishly decorated to welcome the new president. It was already filled with employees. The place cards I had set up the day before were properly placed on the tables. I had already checked where my seat was, so as I headed towards my table, James appeared, blocking my way as if on purpose. James, good morning. What's wrong with you? Your seat is over there. Surprised, I thought maybe he didn't know where his seat was, so I attempted to guide him to the table where I had placed his place card. But it seemed I was mistaken, as James looked down on me with disdain.
I know that. But the place card you prepared. My place card had this scribble on it.
What? Shocked, I looked at the place card James was holding up. Indeed, there was a scribble over it, labeling him as plump manager. Why would this be here?
What do you mean why? You wrote it, didn't you? You were the one who set up the place cards, after all.
No, that's not true. I didn't write this. Surely someone else must have scribbled on it after I placed it down. I pleaded my innocence, but James was adamant. You did it.
Just because I thought you could handle the job alone. I gave it to you, and yet you retaliate like this.
Why would I do such a thing? There's no benefit for me in doing that.
Enough. Quiet. You just wanted to get me demoted, didn't you? I've seen this kind of behavior at my previous company.
With that, James glared at me suspiciously. Before I knew it, the venue was crowded with employees drawn by our commotion, wondering what was going on.
Anyway, I will have to discipline you. Leave the venue right now.
James pointed at me, indicating I should leave. But I protested. Wait, please, James.
No arguing. I said leave. Now leave.
James forcibly pulled me out, and I ended up outside the venue, falling hard on my bottom. As I did, James looked down and sneered at me.
Just because you don't like me, you scribble on the place card. You're out of place here. Maybe you should reflect on that.
No, that's not. I tried to get up quickly, but because I had fallen so hard, I stumbled and ended up on my knees. Feeling miserable about myself, I inadvertently said, "Understood." Seeing me broken, James sneered even more and went back into the venue. I was left stunned by the swift turn of events. Being bossed around by James all the time, and even having the place card task dumped on me, led to this mistreatment. I felt utterly pathetic. As tears blurred my vision,
Edward.
an unexpected person rushed in.
Great. It worked out.
James muttered, sitting at his table, laughing after having me ousted. In fact, the scribble on the place card was his own doing. He had deliberately assigned me the task of preparing the place cards to frame me. If he had been involved in preparing them, he couldn't pin the blame on me, so he set it up this way to make it easier to accuse me. The actual scribbling was done in the early morning before the party, when no one else was in the venue.
What a misfortune to think Edward would do such a thing.
Unaware of the truth, the other employees felt sorry for James and were chatting with him until it was time. Just as the president was about to announce the start of the party on stage, holding the microphone, a secretary with a pale face rushed to him.
Please wait. The chairman's son is missing.
What?
Startled by the secretary's words, the president exclaimed into the microphone. Everyone in the venue turned in shock at his voice.
If you're looking for the chairman's son, he's right here, Nick.
The new president.
Then, appearing on the scene were my brother, the new president-to-be, Mark Wilson, and me. The current president and secretary, Nick, looked back and forth between my brother and me.
Where have you been all this time? We've been looking for you.
Just had some personal business to take care of. It seems someone in this company has been bothering my brother.
Your brother is your brother.
The current president's gaze shifted to me standing next to Mark. Yes, I am the brother of the new president. I had been ousted from the venue earlier by James, but had met up with my brother Mark, who heard the commotion.
What are you doing here? I was looking forward to you coming to my inauguration party.
Seeing me on my knees outside the venue, tears in my eyes, my brother had a sense of foreboding and asked me about it. Though we kept our sibling relationship hidden at our father's request, we have always been close. My brother is the kind of person who would lend a hand when he sees me in trouble, a man of kind character. He got recognized by our father, the chairman, for his sincere work and good performance, which led to his inauguration as the new president. Yet, I caused a scene at his inauguration party. Feeling ashamed, I confessed everything to my brother, and he took charge from there.
Mark, you were instructed to keep your brotherhood with Edward a secret by the chairman.
Well, what's done is done.
Mark.
Feeling sorry for the troubled Nick, I watched as my brother took the microphone from the president on stage and said loudly for all to hear,
Whoever has been harassing my brother, Edward Wilson, step forward now.
At my brother's angry words, the whole venue buzzed with tension. Everyone turned to look at Nick and the president, who referred to my brother as the new president, revealing his position before the formal announcement, and they concluded that they should follow his lead. So, when they all looked for the guilty party, James was the only one they were staring at.
Is it you, The one who's been harassing my brother.
Faced with stern looks from my brother and the employees, James started to panic and defend himself.
No, it wasn't me. If anything, I'm the victim here.
The victim?
James nodded emphatically at my brother's skeptical response and pointedly displayed the defaced place card.
Look at this scribble. This is my place card, but it was like this when I arrived at the venue.
And how does that relate to my brother?
There's a big connection. Edward and I were assigned to prepare the place cards, but I had an errand, so I asked him to take care of it.
James narrated the events leading up to the scribbling to my brother. There were some discrepancies in his story, but I stayed silent and listened until the end.
After I asked him, this happened. It's obvious that Edward is the culprit.
You really think so? This scribble does say plump manager, but my brother isn't the type to write such messy handwriting.
What?
Indeed, on closer inspection, the handwriting was rather sloppy. Perhaps because I had been so desperate to prove my innocence, I hadn't noticed that detail.
Now that you mention it, Edward's handwriting was neater than what's on this place card.
After the handwriting was mentioned, the employees began to speak up one after another, saying it didn't look like my handwriting, causing James to panic even more.
Such vague testimony doesn't prove that Edward didn't do it.
It doesn't prove he did it either. What are you saying?
Mark. As James and my brother's gazes clashed, everyone was wondering what would happen next when Nick, who had been missing, returned to the stage and whispered something to my brother.
So, it was a setup after all.
What? My brother muttered, then gave some instructions to Nick.
James, please watch the video that will be shown on the screen we're lowering onto the stage.
Video? What?
While James looked shocked, a large screen slowly descended at the back of the stage, showing footage of me diligently placing name cards on the tables. After I had placed all of them, I left the venue. The footage then fast-forwarded, and the date changed to early the next morning, when someone entered the empty venue. On closer inspection, it appeared to be James. His distinctive plump figure was confirmed, and he was sneaking around, looking around suspiciously.
Stop it, please. Stop the video.
James's attitude changed drastically, turning pale and trying to force his way onto the stage to stop the video. However, my brother was unyielding and didn't stop the video.
Look, he's writing something on his place card.
A female employee exclaimed as she watched the video. Next, the footage showed James writing on his own place card.
Nick, stop the video here and zoom in, please.
Understood.
Nick, who was controlling the video on a computer, followed my brother's instruction to pause and zoom in on James's place card. There it was, plump manager written above James's name.
This is irrefutable evidence, isn't it, James?
My brother asked, comparing it with the earlier footage where it hadn't been written yet. Realizing he could no longer escape, James fell to his knees.
I did it. There was no malice. I just wanted to play a little prank on Edward.
A little prank. At that word, I, who had been silent, suddenly felt a surge of anger. A little prank. Is that how you justify the harassment I've been enduring? That's no small matter.
Yikes.
At the sound of my outburst, James recoiled in fear. Perhaps because I seldom got angry, even my brother and the other employees were surprised by my reaction. I joined this company, going against our strict father, out of admiration for my brother, And you not only hindered that but resorted to such petty schemes to demean me, and you call yourself a manager.
Yeah, quite right.
After finishing what I had to say, my brother laughed in agreement, but then he turned his gaze back to James, his eyes stern once again.
We will report the matter to our father and announce the decision later, so be prepared. However, don't expect to stay in this company.
But I just changed jobs recently.
It's terrifying that you could act this way so soon after joining. That's the real issue here.
James, having been rebuked by my brother, hung his head in shame. Thus, James's misdeeds came to an end.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Mark, the new president. I am committed to contributing to the company's growth, and I look forward to your continued support and cooperation, as always.
After the commotion, my brother resumed the event with his inaugural speech as the new president. His clear speech was met with a round of applause, and a welcoming atmosphere filled the room. I was watching from my seat, but after the speech, I was bombarded with questions from the female staff during the meal.
Is it true that you are the new president's brother?
Hey, what's the president's favorite thing?
My brother, who has always been popular with women, seemed to be as charismatic as ever, as the female employees bombarded me with questions upon finding out we were siblings. I thought they should ask him directly and escaped to the restroom, but then I noticed something odd. Why does it feel like everyone is avoiding me? The men seemed to deliberately avoid me, apparently having labeled me as someone scary after I had scolded James. After a while of being kept at a distance, things slowly returned to normal as I continued with my work, which was a relief. As for James, my brother and our father, the chairman, had a discussion about him.
Nick, I'm curious about the company James worked for before. Can you look into it?
Understood.
My brother had Nick investigate James to uncover the reasons behind the recent events, and it was reported that James had resigned from his previous company after similar incidents.
Indeed, I conducted his interview and approved him. He seemed to have managerial experience at his previous company, so I thought he would be a valuable asset.
It appears that decision backfired. We should have looked into his past employment more thoroughly.
Oh no.
Without proper vetting, the former president, who had hired James, was also held accountable, resulting in both being demoted. Despite being slated to assist the chairman, the former president's reputation took a hit. Stripped of their current positions, they started anew as rank-and-file employees.
James, work harder and stop complaining. I'm counting on you for these documents.
Yes, right away.
James spent his days being pushed hard by his boss, a sight I could easily imagine.
So, it has finally come to light.
I'm sorry, Dad. It's all my fault. One day, after the incident with James, my brother and I were summoned by our father, the chairman, to his office, where Nick was also present. My father seemed concerned that people might find out about our familial relationship between him and me, just as he was worried about the fact that Mark and I were brothers becoming known to everyone at the company. The reason was to prevent any negative perception that might affect my brother, the heir apparent. I'm not as exceptional as my brother, so just the knowledge of our relation could tarnish the company's image. I knew this when I joined the company and had accepted my father's reasoning. If my presence threatened my brother's position, I was prepared to leave the company gracefully. I came prepared to resign after causing such a disturbance, but my father's response was unexpectedly reassuring.
I heard everything from Nick. It felt like hearing about the bond between you brothers. For Edward, who caused the trouble, writing a reflective essay will suffice as punishment.
What so that means?
If you admire your brother, set a goal for yourself. Start by rising above the rank of a regular employee and aim for the manager position.
Our strict father told me that my duty was to continue working as an employee. But he also gave me a goal to motivate me. Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Feeling a familial bond from my father's words, I was overjoyed. When I inadvertently made eye contact with Nick, he stealthily gave us brothers a thumbs up behind our father's back. After expressing my gratitude deeply to my father and Nick, my brother and I shared a laugh. 5 years have passed since then, and after tirelessly following in my brother's footsteps, I was finally promoted to manager.
Keep up the good work, Edward, the manager.
My brother, who continues as president, supports and encourages me within the company. Ever since our brotherhood became public, we have interacted openly, without concern for what others think. Partly because of my brother's support, I was able to achieve this promotion. To get even closer to my brother's level, I continue to strive forward every day.